Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Drop Temp Coffee Podcast. We are here today with some coffee royalty. This is Tim. I am the co-host with
Keri.
and Keri. I'm going to quickly say thank you to our sponsors. First, we want to thank Primo Roasting Equipment, both Christian and Brandon. Thank you so much for a great machine. We appreciate you guys. Thank you for your sponsorship. We also want to say thank you to Seattle Coffee Automation for helping us pay our bills. Appreciate you guys. And third, we want to say thank you to San Cristobal Coffee Importers. Some great coffee coming out of Nayarit, Mexico. Thank you very much, guys. We appreciate you. All right, I'm going to hand this on over. Keri, go ahead.
Well, as Tim said, we're really excited for our guest here. We got RoasterCat here onto the podcast, and we're really excited. For those who don't know RoasterCat, she is a coffee content creator on Instagram, and she also has a YouTube channel as well. Kat also is the founder of Coffee People Zine, a really great publication dedicated to artists and coffee people alike. And we're really excited to have you here, Kat. And why don't you tell everybody about, kind of the beginnings, the origin story, I guess, of you and getting into coffee and how that came to be.
Yeah, sounds great. Well, first of all, thank you, Tim and Keri, for having me on. I'm super stoked any opportunity I get to talk about coffee and coffee roasting, I'm happy to oblige. So very happy to be here. I can just jump into how I got into coffee. So my formal background educationally is in social work. I was a social worker for a number of years. I have my bachelor's degree in social work, and I worked specifically with populations facing homelessness for a number of years, and really just ended up honestly burning out in the social work field. Mostly I was working a lot with kids and like youth experiencing homelessness, and the systems that we have in place are not, I didn't see them truly helping these kids get out of the situations, and so I didn't really want to be part of the system that was just like that wasn't where I didn't see like forward movement and fulfilling the promises that it said that it would do. So I was like, I need to make a change. I need something different. My original idea was to go back to school, get my master's degree in social work, and either go into policy work so I could, as a naive at that time 25-year-old, get into the systems and change them from the inside, or go back to school and get my master's in social work and do like more therapy, individual counseling and things, and kind of help people more like directly. But I knew that after spending so much time like burning out, that I needed some time away. And so I got a barista job as a way to kind of like try and give myself a break, have a job where I could, leave everything at work at the end of the day and go home and do my own thing. And then I really just fell in love with coffee. It originally, like right off the bat, it was latte art, because it was so cool and so fun, and you could see direct results of like what you were learning. And also it was brew recipes, like how much you can change and how many factors there are in dialing in a coffee. At that time it was as a barista. And then I suppose the third thing, I love to travel. And so being in coffee and seeing all of these coffees coming from origins around the world just really piqued my interest. So I ended up never leaving coffee and going back to social work. Just kind of stayed in coffee, and that's been like over 10 years now. I was a barista for 5 years and did some kind of like kind of, I don't know, worked my way up in the cafe, became a cafe manager and a coffee director at some spots, and then decided that I wanted to change gears and learn about roasting. So I got a barista job at a coffee roastery and just kind of made myself available in the roastery and told them I'd like to learn. Luckily, I was there. I feel like I was really, really lucky that I entered that job at the right place at the right time, because they were growing at their roastery operation was growing at the time that at the time that I started. And so I pretty immediately got to jump into the roastery and learn coffee roasting. And the rest is history. I'm still here. He's still here in coffee.
Oh my God, I love that. It's funny how we all have chances at doing different parts of the coffee world. Keri, you were a barista for how long?
I was a barista on and off for 4 years at Starbucks, and that's there's a lot of people that I've met that were baristas at one point, whether it was at a independent shop or at a Starbucks or something. Somehow, some way, like it's really amazing to hear people's origin stories and how they fell in love with the art making of coffee with lattes or any kind of drink. But then I feel like it's a different when you roast your first batch of coffee. I mean, there's something about it that is just so magical. For me, I believe, like, I'm an artist. Like, granted, I'm not making swans on a latte, but I am crafting something that I know someone's going to enjoy. They're going to take a bag and enjoy it at home, and I'm creating a memorable experience for the customer. But I don't know if you feel the same way, Kat.
Yeah, for sure. I think when I first started in coffee, it definitely was like the satisfaction of crafting a beverage that somebody was going to enjoy in that moment. And I think for me, that was also what was healing about coming off of being a social worker, where, you're working with kids who have deep, deep pains, deep hurts, have been, cast aside in society. And that kind of repair takes a really long time, and you don't often see immediate results. So being able to make a latte and hand it to someone and then be like, oh, this is so great, and enjoy it, was like, I see the fruits of my labor. Like, it's, that instant gratification. Like, I know somebody's day is a little bit better because I did my job right. So yeah. And then definitely going into roasting, I feel like definitely the same sort of thing. And the thing that I've also realized, that as roasters, we have such a unique position because we both reach forward to the brewer, to the barista, to the end customer, but we also have the opportunity to reach back to the producer, to the farmer who's created the coffee that we are then working with. And to me, that's such a compelling position to be in, like to have this space where both other people are, like, I don't know, in grasp.
Love
Yeah,
that. By the way, no, go ahead. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, that's okay. And with you posted actually some videos, Kat, that you were at a few farms at Origin, and you were showcasing the farmers and showcasing kind of how they harvest the coffee. You also showed about the coffee processing. Recently, I saw a video that there was like a yogurt lactic acid fermentation that was happening. That was really cool to see.
Oh,
Can
man.
just real quick, do you mind sharing like what your experience was like going to your first Origin trip and really connecting with the farmers? That sounds really, really cool.
Yeah. So I've again been really fortunate. I think a huge through line in my journey through the coffee industry is I early on was so lucky, like so fortunate, because my first, I'm going to put air quotes here, Origin trip was literally 3 months into my first barista job. I went to a small rural school up in the mountains in Costa Rica, and I went to go visit her. And I went to visit her during, like, I just took a vacation, but she still had to work. And so during the days, she was going to work at the school that she was teaching at, and I had almost nothing to do. So she was like, I don't know, go talk to my neighbor person. I speak Spanish, luckily. And she was like, go talk to the neighbor. Maybe he'll put you to work. And like, I'm the kind of person, like, I'm down for anything. I'm happy to do whatever. I'm happy to have an actual, experience. And so I went to the neighbor's house, and he put me to work picking coffee for a couple of days while my best friend was at work. And, as a barista 3 months in, I did not realize how unique of an experience that was. Especially, this was, I think, 20 or 20. I feel like origin trips are a little bit more common now. But at that time, I feel like it was green buyers who were the only people who were really traveling to coffee farms. So yeah, I had this experience where I was in these like just normal coffee fields picking coffee. I was terrible at it because it takes a lot of skill. But it hit me later how unique and how much of a, like, just, I don't know, special experience that was, because so many baristas, roasters, and coffee folks don't have that opportunity. So that was my first, again, air quotes, origin trip. And it really laid the foundation, again, 3 months into my first barista job, for me being like, oh, like, coffee can bring me all around the world, and it can connect me with people who I wouldn't otherwise, meet, who I wouldn't otherwise have anything to say to. This, like, a rural farmer out in the mountains of Costa Rica. I would never have met him had it not been for coffee. Well, I guess I met him through my best friend, but anyway, I wouldn't have had anything to talk to him about if it wasn't coffee. And yeah, so that laid that foundation. And I have been, in the last couple of years, again, so fortunate to get to travel to a couple of different coffee origins for different purposes. Some of them have been basically just trips that I've wanted to go on, so I did. Others were trips that I've been invited on, and I was able to kind of swing it that way. Whether it was, there was one, I went to Costa Rica to speak at a conference called the Women Powered Coffee Summit. And I went to Nicaragua because Nika Vio invited me. I went to Colombia because I've been so fortunate to be able to do this. And I think it's something that I really highly value, and something that I still don't take for granted, because it is such, I know, a unique opportunity and a unique experience. Have you guys gone to a coffee farm?
I have. I'm very lucky. Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico, Guatemala, Mexico, Costa Rica, El Salvador. Most of the
You've been
Central
all
American
over.
countries.
Yeah.
Kind of, yeah. I've been to 17 countries or something now. I'm a statistician by trade, former Major League Baseball employee, so I have all these numbers running through my head. But I know for a fact that my capabilities as a coffee picker are nowhere in the quality of the people who are doing the picking. And personally, that's kind of why I like buying direct from farm. I think it adds something to the coffee if you can get directly from the farm. I think there's
absolutely.
something magical about that.
That was something that has been really hitting me as I've been back at so I work for Black and White Coffee Roasters. I roasted for them for 2 years, and now I'm on their content creation, social media marketing team. But when I went to Costa Rica for the Women Powered Coffee Summit, I also had the opportunity to meet with 4 of our producers in Costa Rica, 4 of Black and White's producers. Now, when I see their names on like the roast report and on the bags, like I have people to connect to. I have like places and farms to connect that to, which is, yeah, it like the other day, just I guess it was Tuesday, I was roasting coffee by one of these folks. The farm is Don Eli, and I like started roasting it, and I was like tearing up because I was like, these trees, and I've eaten with the people who picked this coffee. It was like, and then I was like, why am I getting emotional at the roaster?
Yeah. Emotion. I was going to say earlier, what you don't know is that I was tearing up with you talking about social work, because I had been on the receiving end of treatment of that social work when I was a teenager. So I'm going to tell you right now that all the excitement I have for you is now covered by a bunch of love and appreciation. Because, even if you burned out, the fact that you reached out is incredible. We try to do that ourselves. I got to hand it to you. I'm just humbled by that. Humbled by that. Thank you for that.
Absolutely. It's a small world, and we all need help here and there.
Yeah, no, appreciate that as well. So you started your coffee career in 2000 as a barista. Did I get that right?
13. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you are currently in North Carolina, correct?
Yep.
Yeah. Is that your state of home? Is that where you currently live?
I live here now. Yeah, I live in Raleigh. But I grew up. I was born and raised in Minnesota, and then I went to college in Minnesota as well, and moved to Seattle for a year, and then moved to Denver. And so Denver is really where I got my start in coffee. And yeah, I lived most of my adultish life in Colorado.
Adultish. Yeah, that's great.
I still don't
that's
feel like
awesome.
I don't feel like a full adult. So
well, I feel like that's a great segue into the zine. And by the way, so creative, honestly, I'm full of compliments just because I am impressed with the humanity that you bring to an otherwise, maybe insane world. So can you tell me a little bit about the zine? What inspired you, and what kind of stories do you like to run? Tell us about it.
Absolutely. Well, I have 2 issues with me here. The two most recent issues. This is what it looks like. It's paper. It's paper. It's physical. Yes, it is a handheld publication. So I started Coffee People Zine in 2000 because I was so at that point I had been in coffee, I guess, for 4 years or so. And I was in Denver at the time, and I was pretty well plugged into the kind of like local coffee scene. But a lot of the events that were held were latte art competitions, and a lot of those latte art competitions were won by the same couple people every time. And like, they were great latte artists, like props to them, good for them. But you could walk into that room and take a look around, or look at the bracket and be like, okay, well, I know who's going to be in the top 3 at least. And then I started kind of having this experience where I would look around, or I was also friends with a lot of other baristas in town, and it struck me that so many other people were musicians who had a show, maybe that week, or artists who were having a show. One of my very, very good friends at that time was having art shows, or that they were poets, or, creative people. But when we got together as a coffee industry, the only thing that we did was kind of reward and celebrate the person who could make the best latte art. And I just thought that was kind of silly. Like, great that space exists, but like, that can't be the only reason that we hold someone in high esteem. That can be the only reason that somebody gets like attention or recognition, or I was like, is this the best that we can do? And I guess my answer to that was to create an art publication. And that was really the first zine. Was I literally just asked my friends who were baristas, hey, send me your art, I'm going to publish it. And I had no idea what I was doing at all. Zero idea. I was just like, I had InDesign on my computer, and so I was like, I'll figure it out. Honestly, I don't know how I figured it out, but I did. And yeah, I just took the art of my friends and put it into a book and published it. And that I at the first issue, I called Denver Coffee People because it was exclusively folks in Denver. But I attended SCA that year, SCA Expo, and I brought a stack of zines with me to sell and give out. And I also had an Instagram at that point, and more people started hearing about it. More people started getting excited about it, and more people wanted to submit their work as well. So I opened it and just every 3 months started publishing a new issue that was all art and poetry and photography and short stories and articles and drawings and like all the creative things that people who work in coffee created. And yeah, that was 28.
So, what you don't know is you handed me a copy of that at the Denver Expo 2018.
I did.
You did. I was working for a roaster out of Albany, Oregon, who had set up a double booth, and I met you very briefly.
Heck
there.
yeah.
So,
oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, you're way more memorable than I am, by the way, just so you know.
I just have a terrible memory at those at trade shows. Like I just black out at those things.
No, nobody has a good memory. That's why they actually scan your cards, right? Like that's the whole reason they do it. Nobody remembers. It's nice to come full circle.
Yeah, that's
and
awesome.
I have seen, yeah, for sure. I've seen a number of zines in a number of ways. And rather than bore you with my history, I just want you to know that it's very readable and much appreciated. No, very humanizing. By the way, to anybody who wants to, please go check out Kat's website. By the way, plug time, Kat.
Yeah.
Plug time. Let's hear it. Give your website up. Let's hear it.
Coffeepeople.org. It's .org, not .com. So coffeepeople.org, you can go and find all of the issues, really. The most recent one, in the last couple of years, I've done themes. The most recent one is water, but then one before that was fire, which is kind of the roaster specific zine.
By the way, I'm going to request one of those autographed and shipped. You know that, right?
I'll do it.
All right, cool. I'll trade you half a bag of some gasha that we have going around that's really been good.
I'll take it. All right. Absolutely.
All right, cool. We're in. We're completely in.
Yeah, perfect.
Somebody pointed out to me that I was terrible at asking questions, but it seems that we may have lost Keri temporarily. So I have to ask some questions. I love Denver. I actually drove there on a motorcycle, go drink coffee.
Nice.
So it's a beautiful ride. But why don't you tell us a little bit about your favorite cups of coffee in Denver and where people might want to go if they check out the town?
Well, the Denver coffee scene has changed a lot since I left. I left in the very early days of the pandemic, in May of 2020, I left. So I haven't been there for almost 4 years now. But from what I've only visited once, sadly, but hey,
Time
Keri,
to go
you're back. Yeah, actually, I have a friend's wedding this summer, so I will be going back to Denver. So actually, if anybody has Denver recommendations for me, put them in the comments or whatever. Reach out and let us know. But I know Huckleberry is a top-notch spot. Mm-hmm. Shelby Williamson, their head roaster, she's a good friend of mine, and I'm always happy to have Huckleberry coffee. Queen City, the guys over there are top-notch as well. Oh gosh. Oh, Sweet Bloom, obviously. Sweet Bloom is always a shout out, always worth a stop. I'd say those are probably my
Super.
three tops.
All three of those, honestly, wow, so lucky to meet. A small world, right? Such
Especially
a small
coffee is a
world.
small world, isn't it?
Oh yeah, for sure. No, that's fantastic. Keri, did we lose you for a little bit? Were you able to listen?
No, my browser bandwidth could not, for some reason, was not holding up. But I have.
It might be because of my ego.
Oh,
too much ego taking up the bandwidth.
Yeah, take up a lot of bandwidth over
How about
here.
Yeah.
excitement? Too much excitement.
Yeah, that's right.
It's just too much emotion.
Right.
Yeah.
No, fortunately I had the recording studio app software downloaded on my thing. So far, it's working good. But yes, I'm back. Yeah, no, I it sounded like you guys. I was hearing parts of you talking about Coffee Zine and how you got your start, and then Tim was talking about how he briefly met you at
wild.
Expo.
At
Yeah.
Expo, yep.
Yeah.
Small, like I said, small world.
Yeah, full circle.
Small world.
I met you, Kat, over at Portland Expo, and before then I was a fan of yours because I saw your content on Instagram and on YouTube. And
she's underselling it. She's not talking about what a huge fan of yours she is. She's not
I
doing
am.
it.
I was like, ooh. Well, here's the thing: is that there's a small representation of female roasters in the coffee industry.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you have one female roaster who sees another female roaster like you creating content like this, it gets me excited. I'm like, yeah, I love it. I absolutely love it.
Yeah.
It's completely a magnet.
I mean, there are more of us than are represented, but there are few of us proportionally. So makes sense. It makes sense.
Roasting,
yeah.
I have to shout out my entire roasting staff. I have all females. I have 3 associate roasters. They are all roasting. The quality has been amazing. Honestly, yeah, fantastic. Yes, there's much love. There's much love for females. Sorry, had to do that.
Okay, no worries. Well, so I was really excited to see you at SCA, and then I briefly met you over. Well, I saw you again at the She's the Roaster meetup. That was really exciting, and yeah, honestly, Kat, like I love your content because as my customers, and I think Tim, if you came to our roastery, like customers who walk into our shop, they see the passion, they see the love. Like, let me give you an example, right? We're in an industrial business park. We're in the middle of this. Like, we're kind of tucked away. I joke with our customers that we're a speakeasy for good coffee. Like, you'll only find us like word to mouth, or unless you say a password. No, I'm kidding about the password thing. But
I love that.
Yeah, no, she's not.
No, well, people. So the front of it is like a very plain industrial building, like nothing to it. But when you walk in, you see like all this artwork on the wall. You see orange cover painted walls and a espresso bar, and people are like, they're just like, what is this place? I'm like, well, it's our roastery, and people get interested, they get intrigued, they want to learn more, and it's people ask us a lot of questions. They ask us like, how do you dial your espresso, and what is a blonde roast, all these different various questions that they ask, and then we're honest and upfront, and people really connect and absolutely love that we're so passionate about what we do that we can take an hour of their time and just talk about coffee. And I never thought in a million years that I would find my passion into this lovely beverage that is so amazing. You can have coffee that's really, really fruity. You can have coffee that's like nutty and chocolatey. There's a spectrum of it, and just like beer and wine. And here in Oregon, there's a lot of wineries, there's a lot of breweries. So when you kind of talk to people and you intertwine those things, they are like, really, like, I can taste certain notes like I can in a Pinot Noir or in a, I don't know, whatever beer. I can't think any beer terminology at the moment, but like people don't realize like how intertwined specialty coffee is until we explain that to them. And and people love it. They love that information. But I mean, with that said, it's obviously shown through your content. It's absolutely shown through the Coffee People Zine, like the how you are going out there, you're educating people, you're teaching people, and you're teaching roasters like different new ways and things to, you know, either improve their job as a production roaster or like even entrepreneurs like ourselves that are small micro roasters. Like, for instance, you did a video where you were showing people how to scoop green coffee out of a bag, and you were explaining that, you know, certain scoops will hurt your wrist, and you suggested a certain scoop. And then right before we recorded the podcast, you know, we ordered some scoops to have at our roastery because we never thought in a million years like that could save our wrists. It's so amazing that and I feel like with you, Kat, with seeing a lot of other coffee content creators, you're seeing a lot of like home-based espresso, I'm sorry, barista, you know, making drinks at home. And I think that's the uniqueness that you bring to the table with your content, because you're on the perspective side of someone who's actually roasting the coffee and getting the ins and outs of what it's like to roast coffee. And I think for me, that is exciting, that's refreshing, it's something new and different, and totally absolutely love what you're doing.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And that's like that feels really good to hear, because that's exactly what I'm going for. Like I think of myself more as an educator than like a, you know, I'm going to use the term influencer or content creator. Because as I said, like with the origin trips, I feel like I've been so lucky. I've been so fortunate in my coffee experience, in my career, to see things that not everybody gets to see and experience things that not everyone gets to experience. And so same goes for tools, same goes for roastery hacks. Like, there isn't really anywhere to learn that stuff unless you're in a roastery and they teach it to you. And, you know, not everybody has the opportunity to work at a big roastery where they've figured all those things out. As you said, some roasters are entrepreneurs. They're learning themselves. They're making it up themselves. You're creating your, you know, workflow on your own in the space that you have with the tools that you have. And if you don't see other tools, if you don't see tools that could be better because you haven't worked in a big roastery, then like, how are you going to find out that information? So that's like really what I try to do with my RoasterCat Instagram and YouTube to a certain degree. I haven't spent as much time developing the YouTube because long videos take a long time to make, but especially with my RoasterCat Instagram, really I want it to be a place to show roasters things that, like, really for me it's a place to show other roasters things that I've seen and things that I've learned, because I think everyone should have access to that information. And I just somehow end up, like, I've just been lucky to end up in places where I get that information.
That's phenomenal. By the way, quick plug again. Those scoops are amazing.
Yes. Everyone,
I should have done it years ago. Oh my gosh. Right? My entire staff is going to thank you. You're going to get a free cup of coffee ever come out by the way.
Love it. Yeah. Everyone should check out their feed scoops. You can get them pretty much anywhere. I have on my RoasterCat Instagram, there's like a link in my bio where it says roastery tools, and I have kind of like a whole Amazon list of a bunch of tools and different books that I like, and even like down to the jumpsuits that I wear in the roastery, because that's an easy way to put all that information in one place. But if you can go to any like feed store, like if you have a farm store, or I think even like Lowe's would have them, but it's just a 6-quart feed scoop for like animal feed. Go get those, because it is the best coffee scoop I have ever used. And shout out to Black and White, because that's where I learned it. You know, they weren't secretive about letting me share that information. So yeah, I learned it at Black and White, and I was like, this is the best thing ever. Everyone should know about it.
That's fantastic.
Okay, so oh, sorry, Tim.
No,
so
go
Kat,
ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. All right, Kat. I want, as a roaster, I got to ask you this question. Now, you roast on a Loring for Black and White roasters, right? Okay.
Yes.
And what are your thoughts on roasting on a Loring versus roasting on a drum roaster? Your pros and cons. I'd love to hear your opinion on it.
Yeah, so I have kind of a unique perspective because I learned on a Loring. Not at Black and White, but my first like proper coffee roaster was a Loring. And that was in 2017 is when I started on that machine. And at that time, everybody was talking shit about Lorings. You know, everybody was like, you can't roast good coffee. It's always baked. It's always going to this and that. And everyone was talking shit about Lorings at that time. And I was just like, I'm going to plug away because it's the machine that I have. I love the workflow on a Loring, but I have roasted. So then I did do a year on a Diedrich IR12. So I do have some like production, experience on a traditional drum roaster. But really, those are the only two machines I've worked on, is that like consistently, the Diedrich IR12 and Lorings. And I honestly love Lorings so much. I don't know if it was because I started on one and because everyone was talking shit and I was like, no, we're the underdog. Like it's great. It's roasting great coffee, but I love the workflow. I love the ability to automate roasts. I love, honestly, a lot of roasting is trying to isolate variables. And on a Loring, you only have one variable that you can change, which is the burner percentage. And the airflow is tied to the burner percentage. So you only have, you can change your charge temperature, you can change your duration of your roast, but while you're roasting, the only thing you can change is your burner percentage. So there aren't, you don't have airflow and burner. And in some of the other machines, I've worked a little bit on a Stronghold as well, and they have an infrared and a halogen and a drum heater. Like this thing has 4 different heat sources. And it's like,
wow,
how do you even isolate what piece is affecting the roast at what time? I think it's overcomplicated. Yeah, I've enjoyed my time on a Stronghold.
God, I love you so much. Oh, I love you so much.
Simplify.
So you mentioned automation. I am curious because I am not an automation person. I like doing things by hand.
Yeah.
When you're using a Loring, and I have some experience, but not a lot. When you're using a Loring, from what I remember, it really is about the color and look of the beans while it's coming out. Am I missing something? Is there more?
Yeah, so with the Loring, it's often really difficult to hear first crack because the burner and the fans are so loud, and the drum is, I think, insulated in a way that other machines aren't. So it's really difficult to hear first crack on a Loring. So what I've done at both of the places where I've used a Loring is use temperature kind of as a proxy for first crack. Different coffees, of course, crack at slightly different temperatures, but if you're consistent with it each time, or at least within each coffee, you're going to get pretty well there. With the Loring, what I've been doing, because this is what I've heard, what where I've seen success and where I've heard, where I've read from Rob Hoos. Basically, Rob Hoos is like the Loring, all-knowing expert. For him, he has kind of arrived at a place where development time itself is the most clear or the most effective indicator for consistency. So that's what I've been going off of. And of course, like temperature. But in the Lorings, if you use the Loring automation is really consistent for most coffees. Some of them you have to kind of intercede. And I will say at Black and White, most of our coffees are roasted manually on fully manual. It's some of the more like the year-round coffees or the coffees that don't change as much. Those ones will do automated, but the like single origins and more specific small batch coffees will still do on manual. We'll smell the beans. We'll use the trier and smell to kind of figure out the exact end when we'll drop. But yeah, I'd say development time and getting it to the right temperature are for me on the Loring, what I look at the most.
It's brilliant. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
I'd love to ask you opinions about coffee. We brought this up with other people that we've interviewed.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm about to ask you about your best cup of coffee ever. So that's going to be one that's coming up. And the best coffee you've ever roasted. I'm assuming that those are not the same. For me, they're not the same, although I could buy more. I'm just saying. But tell us about what's your favorite coffee ever, best cup you've ever had, and what is your favorite coffee roasting, the best roasting you've ever.
I feel like somebody else asked me this question, and I have a different answer now than I did before. I think probably the best cup of coffee I've ever had. I'm going to have to say, and I feel kind of like, I feel like this is like a romanticized version of, this answer. But when I went to visit my best friend in Costa Rica, and she was living with a host family, and her mom made coffee that first morning, it was like super dark roasted. But they use like a traditional Costa Rican brewer, which is basically a stand with a sock in it. And you also put milk in it because milk in coffee is tasty. But waking up that morning and like being with my friend in Costa Rica and drinking coffee that I knew was from that area was like, and Costa Rica is so beautiful, and the air was so crisp and clear, and it had like rained the night before. So there was also like the aroma of rain and clean. And that's probably my best cup of coffee. Just like being happy in Costa Rica in the mountains.
You're not the only person to talk about the environment making them happy, by the way. You are not alone.
That's a huge part in making a cup of coffee great. Like it's really, I think it really can make or break a coffee. Have I had other coffees that are more tasty? Yeah, absolutely. Was that the best tasting cup of coffee? No, but it was the setting that really like made it something special. At least that's my answer right now, according to my current recollection and the things that I brought to mind. I think also probably telling the story about my first origin trip kind of elicited that memory. So, yeah.
Well, environmental, I think, is super important. I think that's something we can mention to cafe owners. The environment has to be right. It has to be right. If it's not right, then nobody comes by. All right. So how about favorite coffee to roast?
The favorite coffee that I've roasted, I'm going to say at Black and White right now, we have a Danche Ethiopian. Right now we have a 5-day anaerobic version from this like Danche farm, but we've also had washed and honey from them. And every time that we have coffee from this location, and I'm like cupping through the production cupping, and I get to this coffee, I'm like, oh wow, what is that? And every time, without fail, it's this Danche. Yeah, it's a hard hitter for me. So that's my answer. Though I've roasted more expensive coffees. There have been but those, I don't like roasting expensive coffees because those are always stressful. I'm always like, something's going to go wrong. It's going to get away from me. Yeah. Just that
Oh my
hundreds,
gosh.
thousands of dollars down the drain if I mess this up. So yeah, those are no fun. Those are no fun at all.
I don't know. I'm going to tell you the most fun that I've ever had with that is showing someone else what they're doing and then showing them the price. I love doing that right in the middle of the roast. Yeah, we got 40 pounds of this up here in this, and here, that's $1,000 worth of coffee I'm trusting you with. Be nice. Right?
Yeah.
There's a sense of humor.
That's so cruel. That's so mean.
Oh, it's only cruel. It makes... Oh my gosh. Do you remember the look on Sharea's face, Keri? The first time she roasted on that machine. Were you there for that?
Gosh, that was a long time ago.
It wasn't. Oh, I remember. All right. So just for the moment, Sharea Bodnar is my business manager and associate roaster. Super talented, great sense of humor, super nice person. And the first time she ran the roaster, she basically hunched over, looking into the sight glass on her drum to see what was going on, and
just like staring at the whole...
Yeah, exactly. and she pulled the dryer, which did not go back in, so she was panicking. She had this like cold sweat panic going on. Of course, I was watching from a distance, laughing at her because really none of that matters so much.
Yeah.
And when she finally, during that same day, she went through that. And then when she finally put unroasted coffee into the roasted coffee, as we've all done, because she did that first day.
Yes.
She started picking green coffee out of the roasted coffee. I'm like, just toss it. Just get rid of it. It's okay. It's not worth it. Don't do it. No, man. No. So... here's the thing. I know about that hot, sweaty, oh my God, what are we going to do? Get rid of it.
Yeah, my most stressful roasting has been like working at Black and White. There are people who compete in the barista and like the Brewers Cup championships. And so for the coffees that they use for that, first of all, it's very expensive. Second of all, they have limited quantities. Like they might only have been able to purchase 20 pounds of this coffee. And so if you fuck up that roast, like their competition is over.
Done.
So
they're done.
Usually we make Kyle, one of the owners. We make him roast it, because if he messes it up, then it's his own fault.
Oh man. Well, I'll tell you what, I appreciate the fact that everything you're saying is relatable to everything we're doing. That makes me so happy. Makes me so happy. Okay. I'm a tattoo fan, a huge tattoo fan. So, yeah, I was going to say, like, big up there, big over there, right? Big on the leg. I know. Very, very typical Portland. Now,
I'm a tattoo virgin.
Yeah, I know.
0 tattoos on me.
That's all right. We love
You're
it.
colorful enough. Yeah, you don't have to like pain.
I think at this point, if I didn't have tattoos, I think I wouldn't get them, because it's kind of cool to not have tattoos at this point.
No, I completely disagree with you. That was the thing, right? Like when you're going through something in your life and having someone else create pain that you're paying for, that's a little weird, but it makes perfect sense while you're sitting in the table. All right. So how many different artists have you gone to?
Oh, so many. I think I only have maybe 4, or I guess it would 4, between 4 and 6 tattoos by the same people. But most of my tattoos have been by different people. I like to get tattoos when I travel as well. And so Many of them have been through travel.
You're a collector.
Yeah, this one is from Portland, actually, right here.
Oh, all right.
very
So
cool.
give a shout out to the Portland artist. Do you remember who did that?
Odd Marie on Instagram.
Oh, you know what?
She's
Very
wonderful.
talented. Well,
Yeah.
well, soft hands.
Yeah.
So soft.
Hey,
Oh my
Tim,
God.
I just want to.
Yep.
I'm sorry. I just want to remind you that we're a little bit over time here, so just give you a heads up.
I'm sorry. My bad.
Oh, you're
Hey, the
good.
conversation's leading the
It's
direction.
too good. It's too good.
Yeah. I'm just telling you. No, that's great.
So real quick, there was. Let's see. So Kat, I thank you so much for jumping onto the podcast. Like it's been awesome. So where could people, how could people support Coffee People Zine, and where can they follow you on social media or YouTube and find your content?
Yeah, so Coffee People Zine is at Coffee People Zine. Zine is spelled Zine on Instagram, or coffeepeople.org. The best way to support is by getting a subscription. So every time a new issue is released, it gets sent right to you. There's a new issue coming out. As we're recording, it is the 29th. There's a new issue coming out on the 30th. So tomorrow, it drops tomorrow. Issue 23 will be out, I suppose, by the time we air this episode. Check that out. It's wonderful, filled with art and poetry, all the creations by people who work in coffee. Best way to support is to get a subscription. Also have a Patreon for that. You can go on Patreon and search Coffee People Zine. And then for RoasterCat, you can find me on Instagram at RoasterCat. Cat spelled K-A-T. And you can find me on YouTube, again, RoasterCat, K-A-T. Watch my little videos. I have a really fun time making videos, so hopefully you watch them, see if you like them. If you do, give them a follow. I also have a Patreon for RoasterCat, if that's something you're interested in supporting. Don't put out a ton of additional content on the Patreon. It's more like if people really like my Instagram stuff and people really like my YouTube stuff, you can support me in like being able to do more of that by supporting the Patreon. So you can go to patreon.com and find RoasterCat. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Just follow my Instagrams and, reach out to me if you have questions and talk to me about roasting, and it's a good time.
I want to take a second and say thank you for being fantastic. We really, really appreciate your time.
Thank you guys for having me.
No, it's a pleasure. I think it sounds like it might be time to sign off. Did I get that right? Is that pretty close?
Yeah, so it's getting close. And I mean, we could have a conversation with you for long time.
We could talk
come out to Portland. Come out to Portland.
My brother lives in Portland. My brother lives in Portland, so I need to go visit him.
Yeah, come on out. We'd love to have you. You bet. We'd love to have you. So let me just say a quick thank you to Primo Roasting Equipment. We also want to say thank you to San Cristobal Coffee Importers and Seattle Coffee Automation. We love you, all three, you guys. Thank you very much for your support. Kat, thank you for coming on board. We love it. Go ahead, Keri. You give it the goodbye. Go ahead.
Well, thank you so much for everybody who has tuned in to watch this interview or listen to this interview. You can find Drop Temp Coffee podcast on any of the podcast streaming platforms. You can watch our video on YouTube as well. And all the information for Kat will be linked up in either the description of the video or on our podcast episode page. So make sure that you like and subscribe to our channels or our podcast pages, so that way you can be up to date with brand new episodes like this. And Kat, again, thank you so much. This has been awesome. We really appreciate you. And thank you all for listening, and we'll see you on the next episode.
Thanks, everyone.